Hello, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Peep Käiss. I'm the dev team lead at Velvet. And today, we're going to talk about how, let's see if it works. It doesn't work. Here we go. So today we're going to talk about how developers are designers and designers are developers. Why cross-functional collaboration is key for success. But first, before we dig in, a bit about myself. So as said, I'm the dev team lead at Velvet. I joined Velvet 6 years ago as a developer. And for the past year, my role has expanded more into the team lead role, which basically means that I take care of the other developers so that they can do what they do best, is write code. I'm passionate about improving the way we work, and also, like one of my main tasks is to eliminate the stress so that developers can do what they do best and it's fun for them to work. Now, before joining Velvet, I spent 5 years in Microsoft as a product and customer experience analyst. So querying vast sets of data, looking at user flows, and then coming up with meaningful insights was my bread and butter. And also, let's be honest, doing a lot of PowerPoint slides. But it was fun. All in all, I'm a strong believer in well-maintained project lifecycle and also cooperation between different disciplines. And I believe that these play a key role in the outcome of every project. Now, besides work, I love my family, I love collecting music, and I love black t-shirts, as you can see. So if you see me not wearing one, then there's something really weird going on. But on to today's topic. So today, we're going to talk about processes. But no, it's not what you mean. It's not going to be a deep dive into yet again something new that I or somebody else has come up with, but rather it's focusing on human-centric core values. Now, what does it mean? Developers in particular, in their daily basis, are full on in everything technical. So whether it's writing code, whether it's investigating some bugs, or reading something new that they just found, it's all about technical stuff, which makes us forget that there's another, let's say, a softer side to our work as well. So today, if we look at software projects, mainly that have a specific start and end date, why it's important to invest time early into these kinds of projects, and how it benefits you afterwards, even long after the project is live. And why I believe that this cross-functional collaboration between all the parties involved, if done right, can solve majority of the issues that arise post-launch. Why is this specific thing key for success? Now, if we continue, we need to first ask, what is success in this case? What are we trying to solve? And it's basically a no-brainer if you're in software. We want to ensure that we stay on budget and we don't run over time. Also, we want to make sure that everything scoped is actually done in proper quality. We want to ensure also that our work is scalable and it has the proper architecture. And all the people involved are feeling good about it. Now, this is actually nothing new. These same sort of desired goals were set already 50 years ago. Some of you might have heard that in 1968, the NATO software conference was held, and first time the term software crisis was actually used. And this was used for highlighting the main issues that had risen in software development. What it stated: projects are running over time and are over budget. software was very inefficient and of low quality. It often did not meet the requirements. They were unmanageable, and the code was difficult to maintain. Or worse, it was never delivered. So actually, the same things. Now, the cause of the software crisis was back then related to the overall complexity of the hardware itself and the development process. So, in short, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to eliminate the most common issues that are present in software projects, and we want to ensure that the process and the project run smoothly, it's done professionally, and everybody involved is happy with the outcome. Again, 50 years have passed, but the underlying issues are exactly the same. Now, why is that? Why haven't we managed to, let's say, crack the code? Yes, we have come up with a lot of new ways to work, and a lot of new methodologies have come up, but these haven't solved the underlying threats or issues. Why? Because the central figures of the process hasn't changed, and that's you, me, everybody else. That's the people in it. The importance of communication is underrated. It's forgotten that it is a team effort. So if we expand that a bit, what it means is basically you're screwed if you don't communicate. If your communication isn't working, it's not healthy, it's not productive, and if all the people don't understand what they are doing, if they are talking different language in product terms, in project terms, meaning that they are not on the same page. Now, how do we solve these issues? First, to understand it, we need to understand how we work. And I try to break it down into really the simple level. So if we forget all the 20 or 30 processes that we have in projects, it simply comes down to three things. It's planning, it's design, it's development. Now, what we have in the planning phase. Usually in the planning phase, we have the product people, that is the project manager, product owner. We have the client, whether he's the internal client or external client. We have the architect if we're lucky, tech lead if we're lucky. And then we have the designer, obviously. Now, this phase is critical for understanding the scope and the context of the project. It's critical that because there, all the discussions with the client are happening for the first time, or at least they are setting the scope together. So everybody involved gets the feeling how it's going to go. The designer already starts to think about what can he or she do, or what can't be done. He gets the feeling what the client wants, what he doesn't want, what he likes, what works, what doesn't work. Now, do we in this phase have the developers who are actually going to work on this? Almost never. Because why? Oh, let's not bug the developers. They're busy with doing something else. So they don't get the context because they're not involved here. Now, in a really simple term, the design phase, here, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time here because the designer, what he does, he or she does, she designs. She already got the input from the previous phase, which means that he understands the context, what works, what doesn't work, what can be done, what can't be done, so he has all the background needed to come up with a great result. Yes, there are some occasional communication with the project people, with the client, and even with the developers. But again, let's not bug the developers too much because they're really, really busy. Now, once the design phase is completed, here comes the development phase. So usually what it is, there's a handover process, whether it's written, whether it means Jira tickets, whether it's a face-to-face 3-hour call, it doesn't matter. After the handover, the developer does what he does. He starts working on the task. But again, he's lacking the context. And even if he thinks that he has asked all the questions that he had, and he has gotten the answers, how he wants to solve or how things should be solved, if he really goes into it, immediately some issues rise. He simply doesn't know, he doesn't understand why some things have been done the way they have. And even if these like stupid questions or silly questions immediately rise. As an example, like why is this same button positioned differently in views? Like why is it on this, let's say, component here, and why is it here on a different component? Like, why is that? I simply don't get that. Or why is the same component acting differently? Like in one place it has spec'd one way, in the other way. Why is that? Or who designed these user flows? It doesn't make any sense at all. And what's up with that navigation anyway? And same goes to colors of the same elements. Why are they different? And so on, so on. We can continue this list of sounding silly questions forever. But these are all going to pop up if the developer lacks the context. So what it means, it results in a lot of back and forth with discussions with the designer and maybe other people involved as well. So it's going to result in a lot of bouncing, and it's just simply ridiculous because you're going to lose you're going to lose a lot of time. And let's add another dimension to it. So what happens if you can't get answers? Because, let's be honest, designers are busy as well. So maybe the designer isn't there to answer your questions, so what are you going to do? You're going to assume. And, as we all know, assumption is the mother of all. So you do something that you think is right, but then it turns out that, no, it wasn't meant this way. But you didn't know because you didn't have the context, you didn't understand, you weren't there when they talked about this feature. So what it means is, most likely, it means considerable rework before live, or 6 or 12 months or 2 months afterwards. It can lead to scalability issues, again, as you were lacking the context. Most likely, it will also result in unhappy designer and project manager, or unhappy client. Now, the likelihood of these issues happening or they turning up can be greatly reduced if included early. The developer understands the actual idea or the client's actual needs. He also understands why some of the user flows are the way they are, why they are in some places different, in some places not. The developer also can offer solutions or alternatives to out-of-scope items. So he can add another layer to the conversation. And what's really important as well is that, like the designer in the planning phase, developer as well can already start thinking about how he's going to solve things. And these are hugely beneficial because later on, you don't have to worry about these potential architecture and scalability concerns that might pop up because you simply are unable to solve the things that were designed the way that you want to do them. And again, context, context, context. He understands the overall project feeling and the synergy as well. So it's not only beneficial for the developer, as he can be a lot more informed, but also, like I said, it adds another dimension to the planning phase. So we have another layer of good and valuable input. So done, solved, super easy. Not quite. Actual presence and active participation is an absolute must. So you need to make sure that there's no point involving or inviting yet another set of people to the table if they're not there. If they don't contribute, if they don't participate, there's no point. You're simply going to lose time. So you need to make sure that if you add developers to this phase, they need to actually open their mouths and talk. Same goes for the design phase. The developer has a great opportunity to be the designer's right-hand man. If he's open to questions and he's a constructive team player, then he can offer alternatives, and he doesn't need to say that, oh no, it can't be done, think of something else. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to work with the designer. And the developer also has a great opportunity to always ask in this phase, does it make sense? So all in all, it's a great opportunity for the developer to educate the designer. The developer needs to make the designer feel comfortable of asking questions, and it gives the developer a great chance to explain already how things work, how he's going to solve these things, what works, what doesn't. So he can educate the designer so that next time the designer already knows better how things work. Now, let's say that the developer is well engaged in the design process as well, and everything goes nicely. This then means that the result of the design phase is an actual working prototype. It's exactly, it looks the same way, it interacts the same way, how it's going to look after it's finished, after the development part is done as well. So this way, the design phase produces actual executable results and not some idealistic views that show the ideal view. And once it's done development, then it appears that, oh, look, it's not the same thing. We can eliminate this. What it also means is that you have all the people in the project invested. And what it means is that everybody's contribution in all the phases means that, okay, let's say that, yeah, what I want to say is that if all the people are included in all the phases, then the responsibility is shared, and shared responsibility nearly always means better results. Again, yes, sounds fantastic, right? But it's not doable, because developers and designers, they are simply way too different, right? And they are not even on the same page. And secondly, the designers don't even trust the developers. Well, my experience in Velvet for the past 6 years is something else. My experience says that it is doable, and it's doable if you want to come out of the endless spinning wheel of delayed deadlines and constant refactoring. So, how to achieve it? Invest time into activating your developers. So they need to get comfortable with the idea of actually speaking up, offering ideas and solutions already at early stages. It's the same thing that you need to encourage them to think along. Also, praise the ones who are coming with you to the journey on these planning sessions. And it might actually surprise you how many developers want to think along and want to offer their input. You need to make sure that developers are available during the design phase and enable them to support the designer if it's needed. Now, the same goes to designers. Encourage them to think about already the next phase when they work. and support them to feel comfortable about asking questions during the design phase. So the designer needs to be the one who's asking about the next phase as well. And ensure that the same communication level is maintained during the development as well. Now, again, I don't mean any bouncing or back and forth going, but quick check-ins, so the developer feels comfortable and the designer is available to ask these questions. This eliminates assumptions, and assumptions are the worst, like I said already. Another thing, do in-house how developers work or how designers work workshops or demos. This can bring the different disciplines together. It can be anything. It can be some small thing that you discovered, or like, I don't know, show to the designers how responsive components work, or like how navigation works. And from the designers, like as an example, how Figma works. What are Figma design tokens? These things bring developers and designers more closer together. And last but not least, create a guide or dictionary that includes all the basics about how things are talked about or how things work in your company, in your project, in your team. Again, the format is not important, but you need to come up with something that enables different disciplines to talk in the same language. And language here, I mean that they use the same vocabulary. They talk about things the same way. They know what they mean. So, to sum it up, we have tried to solve the same issues for 50 years. Yes, we have come up with a lot of new things which have improved the general process hugely. But it hasn't solved the underlying issues. They are still there after 50 years. Only thing that we can try now is to focus on the cross-functional collaboration and bring designers and developers closer together. And we have experienced that this can solve the underlying issues that we're facing in our projects. Thank you.
Wow, you even got a woo. How does it make you feel, Pep, to get a woo?
Woo.
You got one. How does it make you feel?
Nice.
Nice. I think your presentation was spot on then. Thank you so much. It was very well thought through, and it was very interesting and calm to listen to it. So it had a very logical beginning and ending. I wonder if you got that from your previous background as
Hopefully.
Yes. Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, I can shoot my own questions. Maybe you want.
There's one.
Oh? Aha. You had a very good question before, so I'm aiming. This
is a bit more low key, but it's with reference to how you would, if you're going to include developers in the planning phase, you would insist that they participate in meetings. Is there anything in particular you do in order to, in order to incentivize developers to participate? For example, if they're feeling a little bit shy or a little bit unsure of their ideas?
I guess it's simply all about encouraging and like putting them a bit on the spot. And if you put them on the spot like 1, 2, 3 times, then usually after that, there's going to come out some meaningful insight from there. So yeah, and you might include people that you see are more willing to open up. I understand that at first it can be difficult, but if you start with the people, you start involving the people who actually want to contribute, then, and the other developers see as well that, look, this is actually hugely beneficial. So this way, hopefully, you can include the others as well.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, the gentleman here. I really like, I can use the word gentleman. I don't use it in my daily life.
Yes. the work of the designer and the developer are very similar, like the same end goal together, but are there any concepts or part of the whole process that you found that developers don't get about designers' job and vice versa?
Can you elaborate a bit?
Like something that designers typically just don't understand about the development process. In your example, you mentioned like to go over like reactive components, but is there any other things that designers are very hard set on that developers just don't get or don't agree with, or where is the clash that you've seen and how have you resolved it?
I think I can't mention it like one specific thing. It's maybe the way developers and designers think. I think they think a bit differently, and the opportunity is to make them think more alike, because the work that designers do and developers, it is very, very different. So I think all of these, what I mentioned, doing these sort of even small things like small workshops, help to understand the other discipline, how the other works. And maybe it helps as well to understand them how they think, because I think the key here is that, I mean, it's not a bad thing. We simply think differently, and we need to just understand how the other party thinks. I don't know if that answers your question, but okay.
And I think we have a time for one last question, if we have any. Yes, a short one. I just know this guy, not because I'm this strict.
Thank you. Great talk. Many companies use design sprints to actually force this kind of collaboration. So I was interested, what do you think of them? Do they work?
Yes, design sprints are fantastic. So they actually, I think they work, and they are spot on for this. But unfortunately, there are many teams and many companies who don't use them, and who still use these sort of very, very basic understanding that let's keep the phases separate. So yeah, but design sprints work really, really well, exactly for this.
Well, thank you. We are right on time. Thank you so much, Peep. And
Thank you.
let's welcome our next. Let's say goodbye to Peep.